The ruins are closer now, enough that you can reach out and brush your fingertips along their weathered edges. The stone is rough, but there's something almost deliberate about its surface. Not the random scarring of erosion, but grooves. At first glance, you assume it's just nature doing its slow, inevitable work. But then you notice one groove curves into another, forming a spiral, and that spiral links to a jagged line that seems too intentional to be chance. The forest presses against your back as if urging you forward. It feels like standing at the doorway of a cathedral, but one built without blueprints, without mortar, without human hands. You think of all the tales associated with this place, the kind whispered around firesides or tucked into folklore books with too many cobweb illustrations. Some claim these ruins belonged to a lost tribe, a people who vanished without a trace. Others say the stones themselves are alive, shifting when no one looks, reassembling themselves into new patterns overnight. The air chills, though you can't find the wind. Fog curls upward, weaving through the cracks in the stones like smoke escaping from hidden chimneys. Your pulse quickens. You almost laugh at yourself for being so cliché. Fog, ruins, weird symbols. But here you are, living the trope. Congratulations. You are the protagonist of a story no one's going to believe. You step inside what might once have been a courtyard. The ground dips unnaturally, like a bowl, and in its center lies a slab. A massive stone slab, darker than the others, smoother, as though someone or something went to great lengths to polish it. Moss carpets its edges, but the center gleams faintly in the dim light. You kneel, brushing aside moisture with your sleeve. The surface is etched with markings, not language you recognize, not even symbols that resemble runes or hieroglyphs. Instead, they look like intersecting paths, labyrinths drawn in circles, spiraling inward until they end in dots. Dozens of them across the slab, each one slightly different, like fingerprints. You trace one absent-mindedly, your fingertip following the spiraling groove until it lands on the center. And when it does, you swear. Just for a second, the stone feels warmer. You snatch your hand back, heart racing. The stone looks normal, cold, silent, but deep down, you know you felt it. A pulse, a subtle thrum, as though the slab had acknowledged your touch. This is where you remember the stories of the black forest that straddled the line between folklore and nightmare. Travelers vanishing without a trace, their belongings found days later at the forest's edge. Shepherds whispering of lights that flicker among the trees when the moon is gone. Old maps marking certain glades with skull symbols, not as decoration but as warnings. And of course, the legends about the sleeping ones, beings who aren't alive but aren't gone either. Guardians, prisoners, no one agrees. But the most unnerving detail in every telling is the same. They sleep beneath the ruins, beneath the slabs. You straighten, scanning the area. The trees feel closer now, their branches arching like ribs around a cage. The ruins groan quietly, as if stone can sigh. You take a cautious step backward, nearly tripping over a chunk of fallen masonry. It clatters, the sound loud in the hush of the forest. And then silence returns, thicker, heavier. For a moment, you consider leaving, walking away, retracing your steps until the ruins are just another creepy memory you'll retell at dinner parties. But you know that's not how this works. You came here for a reason. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was that itch to chase something unexplained. Or maybe it was something in you that recognized the ruins before you ever set foot here. Either way, you're not leaving. not yet. You kneel again, staring at the spirals, trying to shake off the strange hum still echoing faintly in your ears. If these are fingerprints, then whose are they? And why leave so many? Were these people recording themselves, marking their presence like a signature, or was this something else entirely? A ritual, a map. The fog thickens, rolling in waves now, and you catch movement at the edge of your vision. A shadow slipping between trees, vanishing the moment you focus on it. Your pulse leaps again. Could be an animal, a deer, a boar, or it could be something that's been watching you since you entered the forest, and then you hear it. A whisper, not words, just the cadence of speech. The sound of something shaping syllables you can't quite catch. It slithers through the fog, coming from everywhere and nowhere. You freeze, breath shallow, straining to listen. The ruins don't move. The trees don't shift. The fog doesn't part, but the whisper lingers, curling into your ear like smoke. And for the first time since stepping into the forest, you realize you are not alone. The whisper clings to you, thin as cobweb silk, but impossible to shake. It slides beneath your skin, trickling like static in your veins. You glance back at the polished slab and wonder if touching it again would make the sound vanish or amplify it until your skull cracks with the pressure. Congratulations, you've reached the part of the evening where rational choices officially exit stage left. The forest hushes deeper. Even the invisible insects you expected to hum in the shadows have fallen silent, as though they too are straining to listen. You think of every sci-fi trope you've absorbed over the years' first contact moments. Alien frequencies, transmissions carried on invisible waves. Maybe that's what this is. Not haunting, but communication. Some long-dead civilization leaving voicemail messages in stone, just waiting for curious insomniacs like you to come tapping the play button. Of course, the obvious question arises. If this is a message, who was it meant for? Not you. Definitely not you. Still, you lean in, letting the whisper seep around you. It doesn't form clear words, but it shapes rhythm, cadence like someone humming a lullaby in reverse. Each syllable dips where you expect it to rise, rises where you expect it to fall. The more you listen, the more it pulls at you, tugging gently but persistently toward the slab, toward the center of that labyrinthine fingerprint. You kneel again. This time, you're ready for the thrum, for the faint warmth. It greets you like an old acquaintance, pulsing beneath your fingertip. And though you wish you could deny it, the whispers grow clearer. Not louder, not sharper, but as though your mind has adjusted, like tuning an old radio until the static fades. Sleeping, under, waiting. The words tease at the edge of comprehension. You want to laugh, but it comes out thin, shaky. Great, you're officially communing with ruins in the middle of Germany's darkest forest. This is how horror movies start. Except, you know you're in a different genre, the cozy weird sci-fi bedtime story no one asked for, but you're somehow starring in. Scientists still wonder, you think aloud, half mocking, half terrified. What happens if you press the glowing button? And because, apparently, you've decided to play the fool, tonight too press harder. The fog stirs. Not with wind, but with something heavier. The slab vibrates faintly under your hand, like a speaker cone. A resonance builds not sound, but pressure thickening the air until your ears ache. You yank your hand back. The slab glows faintly in the spiral grooves, like bioluminescence leaking through cracks. The whisper rises. Not gone, not yet. You stumble backward, tripping over moss-covered stones, breaths loud in your ears. The glowing spirals fade almost instantly, as though embarrassed to be caught. The slab stills. The forest resumes its silence, except you know it didn't end. It only paused. You sit on a fallen pillar, forcing yourself to breathe slowly. Count to 4, hold, exhale, because if you don't, panic will tighten around your ribs until you bolt headlong into the fog, and no one will ever hear from you again. So you ground yourself. You focus on the forest, the scent of damp earth, of mushrooms hidden beneath leaves, the faint sweetness of pine. You notice the moss glowing faintly in patches bioluminescent spores, or at least you hope so. Trope box checked, weird glowing fungus, and still, that nagging thought loops in your head. If this slab is a message, what if it wasn't meant to be read, but remembered? What if the spirals aren't maps, but sleeping locks? Fingerprints that can only be awakened by another hand. If so, whose fingerprints were you copying just now? Movement again. A darker patch in the fog, shifting too smoothly to be chance. You squint, heart pounding. It stops when you focus on it, then slides the moment you look away. You stand, muscles tense. Maybe it's an animal, a wolf, a deer, something that belongs here more than you. But the whisper returns, low and clear, curling like breath against the back of your neck. You, too. Late, you whip around. No one there. Only ruins, only trees. And yet you realize something you wish you hadn't. The voice doesn't echo in your ears. It echoes inside your skull. You grip the edge of the slab for balance, because dizziness sways you. The spirals gleam faintly again, just for a heartbeat, then fade. Like eyes half open in sleep, you mutter. Because sarcasm is your last defense. Yep. Definitely not a good time to wonder if ancient ruins are Bluetooth compatible. The whisper pauses, and you swear you feel amusement. Not human amusement, but something close. And the forest holds its breath, waiting for what you'll do next. You pace the ruins now, though pacing feels too normal a word. It's more like orbiting. Your steps trace wide circles around the glowing slab, as if the stone itself were a planet and you've unwillingly become its satellite. Each time you pass a certain angle, the whisper flickers sharper, a frequency shift brushing against your thoughts. It's like walking through radio waves stronger here, weaker there, yet no matter where you move, the source is unmistakably at the slab. You test it, because of course you do. You clap once. The sound ricochets oddly, swallowed by the fog. You mutter under your breath. If there's an echo, fine. If there's a whisper that talks back, that's less fine. Predictably, nothing responds to your clap-ex. The whisper deepens, sliding into your mind like a voice choosing to interrupt your bad joke with its own punchline. Echo, already here. Yeah, fantastic. You rub the back of your neck, thinking of every fringe theory you've ever heard about soundscapes. How certain ruins align with resonance. How ancient chambers were tuned like instruments. Maybe the Black Forest ruins were once an amphitheater for thoughts, not voices. Or maybe you're the idiot protagonist in a low-budget sci-fi flick, where brainwaves get pirated by forgotten stone Wi-Fi. You crouch to inspect the slab's grooves more carefully. By now, you're past pretending it's just cracks. They spiral with too much intention, widening and narrowing like coated lines. Your flashlight dim but serviceable catches faint shimmer along the grooves, as if tiny crystals are embedded there. Quartz, maybe. Or something stranger. Everyone knows courts can store information. Computers used to use it. Scientists still toy with data crystals. You can't help thinking, what if this slab is a crystal drive, still whispering the last thing it ever stored? A memory looping endlessly for anyone dumb enough, curious enough to touch it. You laugh softly, because what else can you do? Great, I've downloaded haunted shareware straight into my brain. The whisper hums again, almost pleased. The forest presses close. The fog thickens, curling between broken pillars. At the edge of your vision, a shadow moves, but when you swing your light, it's only moss and stone. Another shadow glides the opposite way. Again, your light finds nothing. You mutter a rule to yourself. If the shadows move where my flashlight doesn't, I will simply stop turning around. Because that always works out, right? Still, curiosity wins. It always does. You let the flashlight dip toward the ground, and that's when you notice them. Faint tracks pressed into the moss. Too long for deer, too narrow for wolves. Almost human, but each toe ends in a slight curve, as though talons once pressed here, freshed you straightened too fast, head spinning. Not gone. The whisper croons. You want to ask aloud, not gone. Not who, but you bite it back. Because asking is inviting, and inviting is agreeing instead. You back away, sliding your hand along the nearest pillar for balance. Its surface is smooth, worn by centuries. Yet when your fingers brush its cracks, you feel faint hums. They're too smaller, weaker, but undeniably linked to the slab, like satellites feeding a central hub. This isn't one voice. It's a choir, and you've accidentally tuned yourself to the wrong station. You test another theory. If you leave the circle, will the whispers fade? You take 5 steps toward the fog, forcing your legs to move. At first, yes, the sound softens, drifts into static. Then the static sharpens, piercing like an alarm. Don't go. It spikes through your skull, so suddenly you stagger. The slab's spiral glimmers again in your periphery. And just like that, you realize the worst part. You're not free to leave. The ruins want you here. You sit heavily on another fallen stone, muttering a joke that doesn't feel funny. Well, I guess I've just checked into the world's creepiest Airbnb. 0 stars, do not recommend. But the whisper pulses, almost like laughter. And though you don't want to admit it, some part of you wonders if ruins can laugh. What else can they do? What happens if they wake up? Scientists still wonder if ruins can hold memory, or if memory holds ruins. You wonder which side of that equation you're about to land on. The fog thickens again. The shadows draw closer. The slab waits, patient, and the whisper grows bolder. Stay, listen. Remember, the black forest doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels occupied. You sink further onto the stone, shoulders slumping like gravity just doubled. The ruins don't simply look old, they sound old. And you're starting to notice how every breath you take joins that ancient rhythm. Inhale, whisper. Exhale, whisper. Like you've become part of a choir you didn't audition for. The forest beyond the ruins feels different now, as if the fog isn't random weather but an audience leaning in closer. Every branch creak resembles a throat clearing. Every owl call fades into silence too quickly, as though even the wildlife decided, nope, not interrupting this one. You tilt your head, listening. It isn't just a whisper anymore. It's plural. Distinct cadences, some soft, some sharp, overlapping like multiple channels bleeding through a radio. You can't translate the words, not fully, but you get impressions: loss, waiting, hunger. That last one makes you chuckle nervously. Great, now I'm a snack pack. But the whisper swells again, as if disagreeing. Not hunger for food, but hunger for attention, recognition. You tap the slab once with your boot, muttering, "Yeah, well." Join the club. A breeze stirs the fog, carrying the faint scent of charred wood. You glance around, frowning. No fire burns, but the smell is sharp and unmistakable. That's when you notice the black streaks at the base of one ruined pillar, like smoke scars. Of course, fire once came through here. Maybe more than once. Maybe that's why the ruins are silent, because silence was burned into them. Your brain, eager to stay rational, offers one of those fringe history theories. Certain ancient cultures believed smoke carried words upward, binding messages to the sky. If a fire had burned here, maybe the smoke trapped voices instead of releasing them. Maybe that's what you're hearing: voices caught in smoke, recycled endlessly in quartz veins. Then again, maybe you've just invented haunted incense sticks. Great merch idea, if you ever make it out. You wander closer to the slab, tracing the spiral grooves with your flashlight. The shimmer intensifies, and for a flicker of a second, the grooves don't look like random carvings. They look like letters. Not in any language you know, but something alphabet-like. Symbols curve into symbols, like vines wrapping around each other. And you realize this isn't art. This is a script, a message buried in stone. Of course, the problem is, who wrote it? We did. One whisper answers, a breath so sharp you almost choke. You mutter back, "Yeah, thanks for clearing that up." The whisper laughs, and you feel goosebumps crawl your arms. The shadows shift again. This time, you don't just think you see movement. You actually see it. A tall outline slips between the broken arches, too thin, its limbs bending at slightly wrong angles. Your light sweeps the spot, but the outline dissolves into fog, leaving only mossy stone. Your brain immediately does the thing. It pulls up a sci-fi trope file. Classic cryptid. Tall, thin, probably bad at small talk. But then another thought worms in. What if it isn't one figure? What if the shadows themselves are what's moving, bending themselves into shapes to mimic? Scientists still wonder if shadows can have volume, if darkness is just absence, or if, in certain frequencies, it's a presence all its own. You're starting to think the Black Forest has already made its decision. The whisper chorus rises again, less like voices and more like chanting. You catch half phrase. Beneath roots, never left, still waiting. Your stomach knots. Roots, forest, of course. These ruins aren't above the ground, they're woven into it. And the forest knows. You imagine roots curling under the slab, tangled like wires, amplifying whatever message the quartz carries. It's a horrifying and beautiful thought. Trees as antennas. The forest itself a receiver of memory. Maybe you're not alone here because the forest never let the ruins die. You sit back on the stone, letting the realization settle. For a moment, it feels almost comforting, like you're in a place that remembers everything, and you're lucky enough to be included. But then the shadows slide closer again, long arms reaching out of the fog. You blink hard. They retreat. Blink again, they advance. Oh great, you mutter. Now I'm in a staring contest with darkness. $10, says I lose. The chorus chuckles. Yes, chuckles. And it doesn't sound unfriendly, just expectant. The slab pulses faintly under your touch. A heartbeat, not yours. And you realize whatever this place remembers, it's not finished remembering yet. Listen longer. The whispers plead. Stay. And you, against every shred of common sense, lean closer. You lean in because curiosity always wins. That's the law of mysteries. Every human bone in your body can scream, "Don't do it." And you'll still tilt your head, still press closer, still risk ending up in the cautionary tale section of the archives. Your palm grazes the slab again, and the whispering shifts from chorus to focus. Instead of overlapping voices, one single tone threads through Kamar, clearer, as though the others step back to let a spokesperson through. Beneath. Listen, see. See what? You mutter under your breath. Look, if this is going to be a jump scare, I want at least a warning label. Naturally, there's no label. Just the shimmer brightening beneath your hand, spreading along the grooves like light in a circuit. For one dizzying instant, the spiral flares into a map, not of the ruins, not of the forest. Bigger dot, it looks like veins across the earth, branching and rebranching, dotted with glowing nodes. A network. Mycelium, maybe, or roots. Or, if you're feeling especially sci-fi tonightly, lines. And in the center of it all, the black forest, pulsing faintly like a hub. You stumble back, shaking your head. The glow fades, but the image won't leave your mind. Mycelium, roots, circuit sit, all amounts to the same terrifying conclusion. This slab wasn't built to remember. It was built to connect. You laugh softly, though it comes out more like a wheeze. Perfect. I've logged on to ancient forest Wi-Fi. Password, eternal whisper. The forest, predictably, doesn't correct you. Your flashlight beam jerks across the ruins. And that's when you notice something new: shallow carvings on another fallen stone, partially hidden beneath moss. At first glance, you assume graffiti, maybe left by bored hikers decades ago. But the style matches the slab. The carvings depict people, or at least figures, rows of them, standing with hands raised. Above their heads, spirals. Below their feet, roots, ritual, worship, or maybe just instructions. You touch the moss, brushing it aside, and the figures seem to move in the flickering light, like they're swaying, or waving, or warning. Remember us. A whisper threads in. You mutter, yeah, because nothing says restful evening like ancient warning signs carved into rocks. A crunch behind you. Your pulse spikes. You whip around. Only fog, only pillars, only the too close forest. But the sound was real. A definite crunch, like footsteps. You freeze. The whisper chorus halts, utterly silent. That silence is worse than the voices, because silence feels like attention. Then slowly the chanting resumes, softer this time, as though to distract you. But you're already staring into the fog, sure that something is waiting just beyond the first line of trees. Tall, thin, watching. Scientists still wonder if forests can generate infrasound, those low vibrations that unsettle animals and humans alike. Maybe that's what you're feeling now, a hum just below hearing, coaxing your fear higher while the trees stay perfectly innocent. Or maybe the figure is real, and the forest is humming because it's pleased to have company. You back away, nearly tripping over the mossy carvings. The slab pulses once more, faintly, as though to anchor you. And you realize the trap. Either you step toward the forest and whatever waits in it, or you stay tethered to the ruins and their insistent whispers elude. Classic mystery setup. You laugh weakly. Choose your own adventure, eaten by forest shadow or possessed by haunted Wi-Fi stone. Great options. Really love this game. The whisper answers. No game. That shuts you up quick. You test another thought. If this is a network, what happens if you speak into it? What if you give it something back? You lean close to the slab and whisper, very quietly, "Who are you?" The ruins hesitate. Then, faint as breath through leaves, "The forgotten." And suddenly, you don't know if that's better or worse. Your hand jerks away. The glow dims. The whispering returns to chorus, a dozen voices overlapping once more, as though the moment of honesty has passed. But the word remains, etched into your mind like another groove in the stone. The forgotten dot, which, of course, begs the question. Forgotten by whom? You tell yourself to breathe, slow even. You're not trapped in a nightmare ruin, just in the middle of a forest. At night, next to a whispering stone that talks about forgotten things. Totally normal. Happens all the time. The flashlight beam trembles across the ruins, jittering as your hands betray you. The carvings blur in and out of focus, the spiral still ghosting behind your eyelids. You've read enough folklore to know, forgotten usually means deliberately erased, which means somebody, at some point, wanted these voices, these figures. This entire place wiped clean from memory. So why are they still here? Because the forest remembers. You turn toward the trees again, toward that vague silhouette you swore you saw in the fog. It hasn't moved. Or maybe it has, and you just missed it. You blink hard, and for a second, you could swear the branches behind it are bending closer, leaning in like curious spectators. A whisper threads through. "Watcher, watcher," you repeat under your breath. "That's supposed to make me feel safer." The silence answers. Your thoughts spiral exactly like the carvings. If this slab is a connection, maybe those forgotten figures weren't worshipping. Maybe they were networking, joining in, letting themselves become part of the chorus. Uploading themselves, one might say. A chill crawls up your arms. Your skin prickles. You imagine your face, your name, your life being overwritten, woven into the forest's endless rootwork, and the whispers, for once, sound almost eager. Join, join, join. You back away too fast and nearly drop the flashlight. The beam stutters across the ruins before flaring into the fog. For a second, just a second, you see it again. The figure, this time closer. Your gut knots. You whisper, "Nope, nope, nope, nope," because it's not just tall and thin. It's reflective, like wet bark, or something metallic. Something wrong. The forest exhales. A breeze that doesn't touch your skin, but rattles the leaves high above, and the whispers hush, as though waiting for you to decide whether to run or to stay. You've always hated silence. Silence feels heavier than noise. It presses against your ribs. And right now, the silence says, if you step into the trees, it will follow if you stay. The slab will whisper until your own thoughts drown. So you do the human thing, the foolish thing. You clear your throat and speak, voice cracking in the stillness. What happens if I join? Your question hangs in the air. You regret it instantly. But it's too late. The slab flickers, the spiral brightens, and the whispers, in eerie unison, reply. Then you will never be forgotten. That should comfort you. It doesn't, because there's a difference between being remembered and being kept. The forest shifts. Something moves in the fog, and you realize you've given it permission to answer. Your pulse thuds against your eardrums, a muffled drumbeat in the fog. You've just asked the question you swore you would never ask, inviting the unknown to answer back. And sure enough, it does. The stone hums beneath your fingertips. Faint at first, then building into a vibration you can feel in your bones. Like the world's oldest cell phone, but with no off switch. You snatch your hand away, and the hum lingers in your palm, buzzing like a phantom. Never forgotten. The voices repeat, curling through the air like incense smoke. You almost laugh. Because what does that even mean? The internet already remembers everything. Your awkward high school photos, that one ill-timed status update you posted at 2 a.m. during freshman year. Forgotten. Humanity is allergic to forgetting, but this feels older, more primal, as if the forest was archiving long before Google. The fog ripples again. Movement. You whip the flashlight toward it, and catch nothing but endless trunks. Standing like pillars in some natural cathedral, your brain whispers, no eyes on you, no figure. You imagined it. The slab whispers back, you are being watched, so you have a choice. Rationalize it away, or lean into the paranoia. And because you're here, let's face it, you've already chosen paranoia. There's something about ruins that always bends your thoughts towards science fiction, isn't there? Stone spirals could be anything. Forgotten religious symbols, crude attempts at astronomy, or portals. And yet you've seen enough tropes. The alien gateway disguised as ancient masonry. The cosmic Wi-Fi router nobody asked for. Scientists still wonder if consciousness could exist independent of the brain, encoded somewhere else. Imagine if forests worked like hard drives, storing backups of every thought that passed through them. Imagine if every person who died here was still whispering in the leaves. You swallow hard, because right now, you don't need to imagine. You can hear them. The voices shift tone, still whisper soft, but with edges sharper than before. Not forgotten. Not forgiven. That last word hits you wrong. Forgiven by who? You spin, flashlight beam lashing across shadows, expecting to see a face, a hand, something human. Instead, you catch the reflection again, the metallic gleam. It winks and vanishes. You mutter, I'm too tired for this. Half a joke, half a prayer. The air presses heavier, thick with damp earth and static tension. You almost feel like the forest is waiting for you to step closer, waiting for you to answer properly. So you whisper, because your voice is the only anchor you have. I don't want to join. The forest doesn't like that. The silence deepens until your ears ring. And then the slab pulses once, twice like a heart. Then you will wander. The voices sigh, until you decide. Your laugh is thin, brittle, classic. No unsubscribe button, figures. But underneath the sarcasm, your chest feels tight. You wonder if this is how all those old stories began, the ones about travelers who vanished in the woods, names scraped from memory. Maybe they didn't disappear. Maybe they just stalled. The fog thickens, drawing close, curling around your ankles like something alive. The watcher, if it is, a watcher, lingers at the edge of sight. And you realize, with that sinking, stomach-knotting certainty, that the forest doesn't need to chase you, it just needs to wait. Because eventually, you'll step where it wants you to step. The fog swells thick enough to taste wet stone, moss, something faintly metallic, like the tang of a penny pressed against your tongue. You blink hard, but your vision refuses to sharpen. It's like the whole forest has been pixelated down to some early 2000s video game graphics. Luris, uncanny, wrong dot, and then you notice it. The hum that had been vibrating through the slab now seeps outward, bleeding into the ground, into the trunks, into the very air. The whole forest has become one tuning fork, resonating with a note too deep to name. You press your palms against your ears. Doesn't help. The sound is already inside you. The flashlight beam skitters across the fog and lands on Ither Gleam again. This time closer. Not a trick of light. Not your imagination. It's shaped like an eye. Perfectly round, metallic, irisless, set in the hollow of a tree trunk. It stares, and you do what any rational human would do. You blink back. Because really, what's the etiquette here? Do you wave? Offer a handshake? Swipe right? But the eye doesn't move, doesn't blink, it just observes. You feel your breath grow shallow. You've seen enough sci-fi to know how this goes. Alien surveillance devices camouflaged as forest fixtures. Or maybe biomechanical fauna playing at guardianship. The fringe theory forums always loved this one. What if trees are actually the antennas of a planetary nervous system, and we're the static clogging the signal? Scientists still wonder if ecosystems might function like neural network trees, passing information through roots. Fungi carrying messages underground, whole forests buzzing with quiet chatter. But what if that chatter wasn't just between trees? What if it was meant for something else? The eye narrows, or maybe the fog just thickens, warping your perspective. Either way, you're left with a single, intrusive thought. It knows your name, you mutter. Okay, cool. Totally normal Tuesday night stroll. Humor as armor. But your voice quivers in the fog, sounding smaller, thinner. The hum shifts pitch. For a split second, the fog ripples like disturbed water, and you swear you see silhouettes. Tall, elongated, like shadows stretched by a campfire. But there's no fire here, just cold mist and colder silence. When you blink, they're gone. The eye retracts into the tree with a metallic scrape, leaving only rough bark behind. Like it was never there. Your rational brain kicks in, screaming, hallucination, stress, sleep deprivation. Because who else chooses to wander whispering ruins in the middle of the night instead of binge-watching reality TV with a pint of ice cream? And yet, the ground hums again, reminding you this is no trick of exhaustion. Decide. The whispers return, layering on themselves. Dozens of voices overlapping like an orchestra tuning up. Decide. You stumble backward, hitting another tree trunk. The bark is damp, but your hand comes away smeared with something darker. Not blood, not sap. Something thicker, like ink. It glistens, reflecting faint points of light, stars. You rub your fingers together, and the ink evaporates into smoke. Tiny constellations blink and vanish in the air. The forest isn't just watching its leaking. Realities, timelines, possibilities, dripping into yours like a broken faucet. And for once, you don't make a joke. Because your throat is too dry, your footsteps echo unnaturally as you step away from the slab, away from the watcher's tree. The echoes sound delayed, as if someone or something follows just a few beats behind. you stop. The echoes stop. You walk again. The second rhythm resumes. You whisper, of course. Because what's a haunted forest without the classic creepy footsteps? Still, your pace quickens, flashlight beam darting like a nervous animal, and the fog only thickens. And then you see it, a faint archway ahead, carved stone half sunk into moss. Its surface is etched with spirals like those on the slab, but here they glow faintly. Not enough to illuminate, but enough to tease. Enough to say, this way. Every part of your brain screams, don't. But your legs, they're traitors. They carry you forward, one reluctant step after another, toward the glowing arch. The whispers rise into a chant still too soft to decipher, but urgent now, insistent, and you know, with that hollow certainty that coils in your stomach, that the watcher isn't gone, it's waiting just beyond the arch. You hesitate under the archway, one boot on moss, the other hovering over the lip of stone. It doesn't feel like you're crossing into a different space so much as being inhaled. The air beneath the arch is colder, heavier, like stepping into the breath of something massive and patient. The ground slopes down, and you realize this isn't just a gateway. It's an entrance. A passage burrows into the earth beneath the ruins, its mouth yawning wide enough for two people side by side. Though you're deeply grateful you're alone, you flick the flashlight beam forward. The light doesn't travel far. It feels like the darkness is denser here, swallowing the beam almost greedily. Still, you step through, and the forest disappears behind you like someone closed a curtain. The walls tighten around you, stone pressed close, damp with centuries of condensation. Thin roots snake across the ceiling like veins. The hum you've been hearing threads through the rock itself now, vibrating your bones. It's a frequency that's less sound and more sensation, tugging at your sternum like a magnet. You think of the sci-fi trope about subterranean civilizations, the idea that advanced species might have fled downward, building sprawling cities beneath our feet, invisible to satellites, shielded from wars and disasters. Hollow Earth theorists swear by it, filling entire forums with grainy maps and diagrams. And as much as you've mocked those posts, standing here, you wonder, if something did live down here, would we even know? Your footsteps are too loud in the narrow passage. Each scuff bounces back at you like a reprimand. You aim the beam downward, half expecting to find bones, half hoping for nothing at all. What you do see is stranger dot lines, carved straight into the rock floor, running parallel to the tunnel walls. Not cracks, not erosion, grooves, the kind a wheel might make. Except these grooves glow faintly, the same pale shimmer you saw on the arch. You crouch, touch one with your fingertips. It's warm. Not just residual, heat actively warm, like a circuit that hasn't cooled. Great, you mutter, pulling your hand back. The forest has Wi-Fi. A distant noise cuts you off. Not whispers this time. Something mechanical. A low whir, rising and falling like the breath of a machine that's been sleeping too long. Your throat tightens. You sweep the beam forward. The tunnel curves, and just around that bend, the glow brightens. You walk slower now, each step calculated. You tell yourself it's to stay safe, but really it's because you're stalling. Because every instinct says, the moment you turn that corner, you'll see something you can't unsee. And you're right, the tunnel opens into a cavern, vast and round, with a ceiling so high your flashlight barely brushes it. In the center sits a structure stone at the base, but rising into spindly frameworks of metal that looked decades, centuries, maybe millennia, too advanced for ruins. It's a tower, half built, half decayed, half alive at its base. A spiral of symbols churns faintly, light moving like liquid across the carvings. The grooves on the floor feed into it, glowing stronger now, like conduits delivering energy. And here's the kicker. The tower hums, not from electricity or machinery, but from within you, synced to your pulse, like your own body has been drafted into its operating system. Something shifts above you. You angle the beam upward, just in time to see a shadow ripple across the ceiling, too large to be human, too precise to be random. You freeze. Hold your breath. The shadow waits. Okay, you whisper. So the Wi-Fi comes with a data plan. Good to know. You edge closer to the tower. The metal hums louder, almost like it's responding to your presence. Panels along its sides flicker strips of light, forming patterns too complex to pass. They look almost like constellations, shifting into new alignments faster than you can memorize them. You wonder, not for the first time, if this is why the ruins survived untouched. Maybe not because locals feared them, but because the ruins themselves kept intruders out. Scientists still wonder if ancient sites hold unexplained energy, signatures, resonances, too precise to be chance. But what if that energy wasn't just left over? What if it was still operational? And then you notice the slab at the tower's base, smaller than the one above ground, but nearly identical. Spirals etched in stone. A depression in the center, just wide enough for two hands. The whispers return, stronger this time, weaving through the hum. Complete, complete. You swallow hard. You don't need to be fluent in forest whisper to get the gist. They want you to touch it, and against all common sense, your fingers itch to comply. You step forward. Place your palms flat against the stone. The effect is immediate. Light surges from the grooves, racing up the tower in jagged streams, igniting panels in cascading bursts. The hum spikes into a chord that thrums in your ribs, your teeth, even the hairs on your arms. And then you see it above the tower. Suspended in the cavern's air, a holographic projection flickers to life. It's not human, not quite alien either. A map, maybe planets, stars, shifting like marbles in invisible hands. The orbits don't match any you've seen, but the scale, the sheer size, is overwhelming, and at the very center, pulsing faintly, is a spiral identical to the one beneath your palms. The whispers fall silent. The cavern holds its breath, and you, for the first time tonight, realize you're not just being observed, you're being tested. The cavern doesn't feel like stone anymore. It feels like a lung, pausing between breaths. The silence presses in, not empty, but charged. Like static before a lightning strike, the holographic projection floats above the tower, faint at first, then sharper. Stars swell and pulse in clusters, their light spilling down the cavern walls like spilled ink on parchment. You blink hard. For a heartbeat, it almost looks like the night sky has folded inward, planting itself underground. The spiral at the center throbs in rhythm with your chest, pulling each beat into alignment. You shift uncomfortably, half expecting your heart to stop altogether if the rhythm slips. Yeah, that's normal, you mutter under your breath. Just syncing my cardiovascular system to a giant alien screensaver. Totally fine. The projection rotates slowly, not random. Every time it turns, new alignments appear. Stars connect with lines, forming constellations you don't recognize. Some look almost human shapes of hunters, birds, spirals, but each dissolves into a lattice of geometry too precise to be mythed. Your flashlight flickers. You curse softly, tapping the barrel, but realize quickly it isn't the batteries. The projection is affecting it, bending frequencies, pulling on light like a puppeteer. That sci-fi trope about technology advanced enough to appear as magic. You're living it. The hairs on your arms bristle, because no matter how badly you want to call this superstition, you know it's engineering. Deliberate, intelligent, purposeful. The question that burrows in is the one scientists still whisper in late-night think tanks. If someone left us a message hidden in stone, would we even know how to read it? The symbols on the floor shift under your hands, not glowing, but sliding, like gears beneath glass. The grooves realign, feeding more energy into the tower, and the whispers return. But this time, they're not words. They're images, buried memories that aren't yours. You see caravans moving through endless desert, their shadows stretching across dunes. You see a forest, older than time, where ruins are swallowed by roots, then spat out centuries later. You see machines rising from under mountains, only to vanish again, like mirages. And strangest of all, you see yourself, a figure standing exactly where you are, hands on stone, bathed in blue glow. Except it isn't you. It's someone else wearing your outline, your posture. The projection insists this has happened before. Many times you shiver, because the implication is simple and terrifying. You're not the first. The holographic spiral pulses brighter. Then, almost impatiently, it splits. The map fractures into two halves, one showing the sky above the black forest, stars bending slightly wrong. The other, a network of subterranean chambers fanning out beneath the earth like veins. Your mouth goes dry. The tunnels stretch far deeper than any archaeologist's guess. Entire complexes curl downward, dotted with glowing nodes. Each node pulses in rhythm with the spiral in your chest. They're alive, in some way stations, engines, seeds, you can't tell. And at the lowest point, deep under where you stand, a circle glows brighter than the rest. Larger, central, almost beating, of course, you whisper, because why wouldn't there be a boss level? The tower shudders. Dust rains from the cavern ceiling. The holographic projection sharpens, the spiral now vibrating so hard it blurs. The whispers cut through, continue, complete, descend. The command is clear. The tower isn't just showing you the map. It's giving you instructions. But why you? Why anyone? You think of another classic sci-fi question. What if the universe itself isn't waiting for our discovery, but testing our curiosity? What if some puzzles are bait, left deliberately to see who's willing to follow them down? You can't tell if that thought excites you or terrifies you. Your flashlight dies completely. The cavern plunges into projection light, only blue, white, silver. Your shadow splinters into three, each moving a fraction too late to match your body. You laugh nervously, though it comes out too loud. Great. Triple the anxiety for the price of one ticket. The laughter echoes back wrong, distorted, like someone else laughed with you. You spin, heart clawing up your throat, but there's no one behind you. The projection dims, then tightens. The map collapses inward until it's only the spiral again, hovering, steady, pulsing. You feel pressure under your feet. The grooves in the floor hum, shifting as if unlocking. Stone grinds against stone, then dash directly ahead. New passage reveals itself. A slab of wall slides back silently, exposing stairs that coil downward into even thicker dark. The whispers hiss, almost gleeful now. Descend. You stand frozen at the threshold. The spirals glow, washing over your skin. Every instinct screams to turn back. To flee the cavern, sprint through the tunnel. Claw your way up to the forest where at least owls and moss pretend to be ordinary. But curiosity, that trait humans keep pretending is a strength, tugs you forward. You stare into the stairwell, endless shadows spiraling downward. It smells of iron, damp earth, and something older than memory. Yeah, you say softly, trying to steady yourself. This is definitely the part in the movie where I make a terrible decision, and with a shaky breath, you put one foot on the first step. The tower hums approvingly. The spiral flares, and the black forest swallows you deeper. The stairwell spirals downward like it was carved by something that had never actually used stairs. Each step is slightly too long, too shallow, like an alien's approximation of human design. Your legs burn as you descend, but the rhythm of the spiral below the pulsing light keeps drawing you in like a metronome you can't ignore. The air grows heavier, damp, metallic, laced with that same temps of ozone you tasted in the fog. You run your fingertips along the wall for balance and recoil when the stone isn't cold. It's warm, almost skin warm. You mutter a shaky laugh. Yep, great. Love, when architecture has a pulse, really sets the mood. The whispers thicken as you go deeper. No longer vague, no longer distant. They overlap in layers, some echoing in languages you don't understand, others eerily close to your own voice. Left, return, descend, forget. It's maddening, like your thoughts are being read aloud before you have them. You test it. You think, banana milkshake in space. Half a beat later, the voices echo. Banana, space. Your knees almost buckle. The cavern isn't just whispering at you, it's whispering through you. That fringe sci-fi theory flashes through your mind. What if consciousness is contagious? Not an isolated spark, but a signal transmitted, absorbed, looped back. If so, are you still you? Or are you just the forest's newest antenna? Scientists still wonder if thoughts are quantum patterns, flickers that can, under the right conditions, be shared, and apparently, those conditions include trudging down into the belly of a ruin that probably predates civilization. That staircase widens into a landing. You halt, sucking in your breath. The chamber beyond isn't stone anymore, it's alive. The walls curve like rib cages, ribs fused into arches overhead. Faint bioluminescent veins glow green-blue, pulsing in time with that spiral rhythm you've been chasing since the cavern. The floor ripples faintly under your boots, like stepping across a drum stretched too tight. In the center, a pool of liquid metal shivers without rippling, and floating above it no cables, no supports. A lattice of machinery hovers. Delicate arms and nodes stretch outward, adjusting, retracting, aligning themselves with inaudible precision. It's both mechanical and biological, the kind of design you'd expect from a civilization that thought screws were barbaric. You breathe. Well, there goes my IKEA membership. The lattice tilts in acknowledgement, as though it heard you. The whispers return, louder now, cutting across each other like competing radio stations. Except buried inside, one voice rises clearer, and this time it is yours. You descend. You chose. You remember. Your jaw tightens. I didn't remember anything. I don't even remember why I skipped breakfast this morning. The reflection in the metallic pool wavers. For a moment, you don't see yourself, you see dozens of selves. Each standing where you are, each in different clothes, different ages, different timelines. One of them looks older. Another wears something you don't even recognize. Another has a scar you've never earned. The implication hits like a punch. You've done this before. Over and over. The whispers almost sound amused now, like a teacher waiting for the student to catch up. Again, 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 the sci-fi trope you dread most hovers at the edge of your mind. Closed loops. The idea that some journeys aren't progress, but repetition. Not a story with an ending, but a ritual you're doomed to repeat until you finally learn the lesson. But what's the lesson here? Don't trust alien architecture. Don't poke glowing slabs. Don't walk into forests that hum like bass speakers left on overnight. You shake your head, but the whispers echo the gesture anyway. The reflection copies it, to all your other selves, shaking in unison. You whisper, "This is insane, insane, sane." Chosen, the chorus replies. The lattice above the pool shifts, aligning itself into a perfect spiral. The same spiral carved into stone. The same spiral burned into your chest's rhythm. And then the hum changes pitch. You feel it in your teeth first and ache, sharp and insistent. Then in your skull, a vibration behind your eyes. The pool ripples for the first time, its metallic surface splitting outward like petals. From the opening, a faint stairwell continues downward, of course, because the descent isn't over. The whispers fall silent. That silence is worse than the noise. You glance down the revealed path, its shadows darker than dark, and mutter, "Right. Because if I didn't go down there, this whole creepy ritual would be wasted. Wouldn't want to disappoint the cosmic ruins." Your reflection doesn't laugh. None of them do. They just watch as you step toward the new stairwell, one hesitant foot at a time. The hum grows again, deeper, closer to something alive. You realize you're not descending stairs anymore. You're descending through memory. Each step brings flashes, not of your life, but of countless others. A caravan splitting under desert heat. A monk burying an empty scroll in a stone alcove. A child touching a spiral and vanishing in a flare of light. You stumble, catching yourself on the wall. It throbs under your hand like a pulse, beating faster the further you go. You know, with sick certainty, that the forest isn't just showing you history. It's feeding on your curiosity, on your descent, on your willingness to keep going when every warning bell screams to turn back. And still, you don't stop, because you can't. The stairwell narrows until you feel as if the stone or whatever passes for stone hair might collapse around you. The air isn't air anymore. It's thick, almost syrupy, pulling at your lungs, demanding more effort with every breath. And beneath that effort, you sense the hum. Not just sound, not just vibration, a pressure pressing inward from every angle, folding you into its rhythm. When you emerge, it's like crawling through the birth canal of some impossible thing. The chamber isn't vast like the last. It's tight, intimate, alive. The walls pulse with veins of light, crimson this time, like oxygenated blood rushing through capillaries. And at the center, no machine, no pool, no artifact. Instead, it's a heart, a colossal, throbbing, living heart suspended in mid-air, as if gravity itself dares not touch it. Every beat rattles your teeth. Every contraction shakes the marrow in your bones. It isn't just pumping blood, it's pumping memory. Each pulse sends a wave of images across the chamber. Thousands of lives, billions even, flicker around you in spectral loops. You see a boy grasping the hand of his dying mother, a woman scribbling equations on a cave wall by firelight, a soldier collapsing in the mud, staring up at stars that seem both alien and familiar. It's not random. It's recorded. This heart is an archive, a library of existence itself. The whispers return. Only now they aren't whispers. They're voices, distinct, crisp, as if the heart is an antenna and you've just tuned the dial. You were always coming back. You were always here. You were always leaving. It's maddening. A Mobius strip of sentences looping in on themselves. You shout, more to anchor yourself than to be heard. What do you want from me? The chamber trembles. The voices stutter, overlap, and then coalesce into a single phrase, spoken in your own voice. To remember, your chest aches suddenly. You glance down. The faint spiral you'd half-joked about earlier, the one you thought was carved into stone, is burning into your sternum. The skin reddens, then glows. It doesn't hurt. Not in the normal way. It feels like recognition, as if something that was always there is being uncovered. Your knees buckle. Memories surge, not yours. You see hands that aren't yours, building a lattice of bone and brass. You taste air thick with volcanic ash. You hear screams in a language you've never studied but understand perfectly in this moment, and then you feel the heart beating inside your own chest. It isn't metaphor for an instant. Your heart and this impossible organ beat in perfect synchrony. Like a duet rehearsed for centuries, the idea creeps into your mind, uninvited but undeniable. What if this isn't a place you stumbled into? What if this forest, this labyrinth, this heart it's you? Or at least, the part of you you've never had the bandwidth to perceive. Like discovering your reflection has been living its own life all along. Your voice trembles as you whisper, "Am I?" The archive. The heart shudders and the chamber flares. Every spectral life around you freezes mid-motion, heads turning toward you. They don't have faces you recognize, but their attention is unbearable. Yes, the voices reply, layered, infinite. No, they counter in the same breath. You are vessel. You are witness. You are seed. Your mind reels. Sci-fi thought experiments rush in, trying to give structure to the impossible. Maybe consciousness is fractal. Each person a shard of something vaster. Maybe history doesn't just record itself, implants itself, waiting for a host to carry it forward. Maybe you're not in a labyrinth at all. Maybe you're inside the nervous system of reality itself, and maybe, just maybe, you weren't meant to see this, because knowledge, like radiation, doesn't always heal. Sometimes it burns. The heart convulses. For the first time, it falters. A skipped beat echoes like a thunderclap. The spectral lives glitch, stuttering frames of agony and laughter. The whispers overlap, frantic. Choice, cycle, continue. The heart lurches toward you, dragged by its own gravity. The walls flex inward. You stumble back, but there's nowhere to go. You're already pressed against a boundary that feels less like stone and more like stretched skin. The heart expands, then contracts. Violently, a shockwave slams into you. Darkness swallows everything. When you wake, you're standing. Same position, same chamber, but the heart is gone. Only the staircase remains. Winding upward this time, the whispers fade, leaving a silence so sharp it feels like a blade against your throat. You swallow hard and mutter up, "Of course." Because after all that, the only way out is back through the thing that dragged me here. Your chest still glows faintly with the spiral. No matter how hard you rub, it won't fade. You put one foot on the first step upward, and then another. The silence follows, watching, waiting, because somewhere deep inside, you know, the heart didn't vanish, it moved, and it's still beating inside you. The climb back up feels different, not just because the stairs spiral in the opposite direction now, but because you carry something that wasn't yours before. Every step vibrates through your sternum, through that glowing spiral etched into your skin. You swear you can hear the echo of that colossal heart, steady, stubborn, beating inside your ribs like it's always belonged there. The air thins as you ascend. You expect oxygen-starved dizziness, but instead it feels sharpened, clearer, as if every molecule you breathe has been filtered through some ancient intelligence. Then you notice something stranger. The walls aren't walls anymore. The stone texture you traced on the way down is now laced with rootstick, blackened roots that writhe ever so slightly when you pass. They pulse faintly, glowing like veins. You can't shake the thought that the forest has grown inward, invading the labyrinth, weaving itself into the architecture as if trying to reclaim it. When you reach the top, the stairwell spits you out into a clearing you don't recognize, but it is the Black Forest. You can smell the resin, damp soil, mushrooms fermenting in shadow. Only now it feels wrong, as if the forest has been rebooted into an uncanny version of itself. The trees stand too still. No wind stirs them, though you hear the rush of wind above. The ground looks like soil, but when you crouch to touch it, it has the give of flesh. Soft, warm, great, you mutter under your breath. I'm walking on the world's weirdest waterbed. The humor doesn't stick, because then you notice the forest is listening. Every tree trunk has an eye. Not carved, not painted. Real eyes, open and moist, tracking you in unison. You take a step. Hundreds of eyes swivel to follow. Another step. More eyes blink. Some are human, some animal, some unclassifiable slitted pupils, triple irises, colors that don't exist in daylight. And then, faintly, the whispers return. Not from the trees this time. From you. Every eye is yours. Every blink resonates in your chest, in that spiraling mark. For the first time, you realize the archive hasn't just given you memories. It's colonized your perception. The forest is no longer external, it's folded into you. Or worse, you're folded into it. The sci-fi brain in you scrambles for metaphors. Maybe you've become an interface, a neural uplink between organic and cosmic data. Maybe consciousness scales like a forest itself, branching endlessly, and you've just been promoted from a leaf to a trunk. Maybe you're dreaming inside the dream of something vaster, and this is how it keeps track of itself. But then the question slams down, unavoidable. If the forest sees through me, who's doing the watching? You stagger forward, toward the ruins you left behind, hoping for something familiar. Except they're gone. No shattered walls, no spiral stair, just more trees, denser, darker, taller. The forest has overwritten the map, and then, rising between the trunks you spot structures. Not stone this time, but bone. Entire towers built from femurs, ribs, spines fused into lattice that spiral into the canopy. They glow faintly from within, like lanterns powered by marrow fire at their base. Figures move. You freeze. They aren't human, at least not anymore. Their limbs are too long, their faces erased into smooth, eyeless planes. Yet you sense recognition, like they know you, like they've been waiting for you. One lifts a hand in greeting or maybe warning. Your spiral burns hotter in response. The whispers intensify. Not external, internal. A chorus vibrating through your bones. Join, remember, seed. The figures beckon you closer. You feel compelled, drawn like iron to magnet, and then a memory slams into you that isn't yours. The bone towers, newly built centuries ago. The eyeless figures were human once. They were pilgrims, seekers. Each one touched the heart as you did, and it rewrote them. They surrendered their individuality to become caretakers of the archive. The chilling part. They chose it. The spiral sears against your skin as if daring you. Will you choose it too? You stumble back. The forest reacts violently. Roots lash upward from the soil, groping like fingers. The eye trunks swivel, narrowing. The caretakers tilt their heads in unison, waiting. This is no longer about exploration. It's ultimatum, assimilation or escape, and the catch. You're not sure escape is possible anymore, because maybe the forest isn't a place. Maybe it's a state, a viral state of being, and maybe you've already been infected. A low rumble splits the ground. The towers pulse brighter. The caretakers raise their arms. The spiral on your chest ignites like a starburst. Your knees give out. The world folds, collapses, and you fall not onto the soil but through it. As if the ground itself is a trapdoor, the forest swallows you whole. You tumble in weightless darkness. The whispers vanish. The eyes close. And for one terrifying, exhilarating moment, you are freefall. Then you see it light ahead. A horizon curling upward, as if gravity itself is folding reality into a loop. You're not falling. You're circling back, because maybe there was never an up or down at all. Only the spiral. Always the spiral. You wake or think you wake floating in a dim glow. There is no forest here, no towers, no eyes staring down from bark. Only a pale horizon that curves around itself, looping endlessly like the inside of a seashell. Every surface hums gently, not mechanical, not organic, but something in between. The spiral mark on your chest pulses once, and the glow answers. For the first time, you understand that the spiral isn't a wound or a gift. It's a key. You drift forward, weightless. Your fingertips brush the walls of this place, and they ripple like water. Not stone, not sky. Something pliable, responsive. Almost as if reality itself has become a fabric you can touch. And then you hear the voices again, but they are no longer whispers in the trees. They are clearer, smoother, layered. You are inside the archive. Every seeker ends here. Every seeker becomes us. You look down at yourself. Your outline flickers, body dissolving into light, reforming, dissolving again. You're not stable, not fixed. You're part data now. The sci-fi part of your brain kicks in. Maybe this is what happens when biological memory and planetary memory synchronize. Maybe the spiral is a quantum handshake, a way of aligning to consciousnesses across scales. Maybe you've been uploaded into something older than language. But then the human part of you pushes back with a simpler question. What happens to me if I stay? The archive answers, though you never asked aloud. You dissolve. You scatter. You remain, but not as you. The forest will remember. It should terrify you. And yet, oddly, it soothes. Because isn't that what memory is anyway? Little fragments of people we've lost, carried forward without their consent. Songs, stories, inside jokes, hand-me-downs of identity, long after the body's gone. You chuckle softly. So basically, I'm becoming one giant bedtime story, and the archive laughs with you. Or maybe that's just your own voice, echoing dot, then dash choice dot a doorway appears. Just a crack of light in the spiral wall, opening into something that looks ordinary trees, night sky, stars hanging lazily above. The whispers grow softer, urging, step back if you wish. Wake again in your small body. Forget what you've seen, or stay, merge. Add your story to the spiral, where it will never end. You hover there, undecided, because isn't that always the way with mystery? Half of you craves the comfort of answers. The other half lives for the ache of the unknown. Finally, you take a breath. A real one, or simulated, you can't tell, and you step into the light. Wind brushes your face. Cool, pine-scented, real. You're back in the forest. The normal forest, or close enough. Birds stir. The soil feels solid, not like flesh. The ruins are gone, the caretakers gone. The archive hidden again beneath layers of moss and myth. You press your palm to your chest. The spiral mark is faint now, almost gone. But when you close your eyes, you can still feel it like a lullaby humming under your ribs. Was it real? A hallucination? A dream? Scientists still wonder if forests themselves can store memory. If tree roots and fungal networks record echoes of what passes through. Maybe you just fell asleep against a log and let your brain do the rest. Or maybe you've carried something back. The forest creaks. A breeze stirs the branches. Somewhere a distant laugh echoes, not quite human. You can't help smiling. Whatever it was, you survived it barely. And tomorrow, when you wake again, you'll wonder how much you imagined. But tonight, you'll drift into sleep, with whispers beneath the black forest ruins lingering just soft enough to follow you into dreams. Wind down, 300 words, and now, as you settle deeper into your bed, let the last remnants of the story dissolve into the quiet. The forest fades. The spiral mark cools against your chest. The ruins, the watchers, the voices, they step back into the dark where they've always belonged, leaving you lighter, softer, unburdened. Your breathing slows. Your shoulders sink. The air around you feels a little safer now, as though even the strangest mysteries only wanted to keep you company for a while. You might find yourself replaying details, the way the eyes blinked from the bark, or the pulse of the spiral, but those images blur quickly, edges softening, like chalk in the rain. What remains is not fear, but a rhythm, a slow, steady hum that matches your heartbeat, rocking you toward stillness. Remember, every unanswered question can rest for now. The ruins will keep their secrets until another night. The forest will wait, and you've earned a long, deep rest. So let your eyelids grow heavy. Let each exhale carry you farther away from wakefulness. Drift past the edges of the spiral, into that wide, quiet space where nothing chases you, and everything forgives. Sleep is waiting, and the story is done. Sweet dreams. End of script. Hey guys, tonight we are stepping into a place where the trees lean a little too close. where the fog drapes itself over the earth like a heavy blanket, and where the ruins of something long forgotten are just waiting for you to notice them. The Black Forest. You've heard the name whispered in legends, or maybe just seen it as a creepy backdrop in a late-night documentary you fell asleep to, but tonight, you're walking inside it in second person, because it's more fun if I make you do the wandering. And let's be honest, you probably won't survive this, but at least you'll look very aesthetic, disappearing into the mist. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're awake enough, post your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious to see which corner of the world is about to nod off with me tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The pines rise above you like cathedral spires, dark needles whispering as they catch the wind. The Black Forest isn't just a name on a map, it feels like it breathes, pulling you deeper one step at a time. The air is damp, carrying the faint scent of moss, soil, and something metallic you can't place. It's late dusk, that liminal space where color bleeds into shadow and the edges of things become uncertain. The ground crunches beneath your boots, a reminder that yes, you are here, yes, you're committed, and yes, it's way too late to turn back and binge watch a sitcom instead. Through the trees, you glimpse what you came for: ruins, half sunken into the earth, smothered in ivy. Not castle walls exactly, more like fragments of something older. Pre-castle, maybe pre-human if you let your imagination wander. A broken arch, lopsided but stubborn, still frames nothing but fog. Crumbling stones stack like forgotten Jenga pieces, each etched with erosion but still defiant. It's the kind of place where your phone would lose signal just out of spite. You pause, listening. The forest hums, not with obvious sounds but with layers. The rustle of unseen wings, the soft drip of water from canopy to ground, and beneath it all, a subtle vibration, almost like bass notes from a song too low to hear clearly. It's not coming from your imagination, though you're about 2 minutes away from blaming it on that dot. It's here, in this dusky beginning, that the mystery sets its hook. You can't tell if the ruins are waiting for you to explore, or if they're politely daring you to stay away. And you're going to choose wrong, because that's how these things always work. You move closer, your hands brushing rough bark as you steady yourself along uneven ground. Somewhere in the distance, a bird shrieks once, then goes silent, as if embarrassed for drawing attention. You chuckle nervously. Even in the spookiest moments, life gives you comic relief, like your footsteps squeaking against wet moss. Very intimidating. Future historians will say, they vanished mysteriously. But they squeaked a lot. The ruins revealed themselves bit by bit, each stone block shimmering faintly as though the last of the sun can't resist clinging to them. You wonder, briefly, if these remnants were once a village or a temple, or maybe just someone's really ambitious garden wall project. Scientists still wonder if some of these Black Forest structures belonged to early settlers, or if they were older than recorded history. Maybe they were never human at all. And yes, I realize how that sounds. You're basically volunteering to be in a History Channel special, where the narrator whispers aliens, and then cuts to an ad break. But standing here, you can almost believe it. The pines form tight ranks around you, like guards who have seen centuries come and go. The ground feels uneven, as though something beneath it is shifting, waiting for you to step in the wrong spot. And that subtle hum still there, still persistent, reminds you that whatever lives in these stones hasn't stopped whispering. Not yet. You lean against one half-collapsed wall. Cold stone presses through your jacket, damp and slick, but strangely warm at the edges. You think of sci-fi tropes, ruins that store memory, architecture that listens, structures built not as buildings but as living organisms. Could these stones be remembering you right now? Adding you to some eternal logbook of visitors who dared to walk past dusk? Scientists still wonder if certain crystalline structures in ruins can record vibrations. What if the walls are listening, catching your heartbeat and storing it like data in some forgotten archive? The mist grows thicker. Shapes loom, ahead arches, and fractured pillars dissolving into shadow, the forest reclaiming everything that once stood proud. You step forward, your breath forming clouds that immediately disappear into the grey. Somewhere in the distance, something clicks, like two stones knocking together. Could be an animal, could be the ruins settling, could also be the sound of your rational brain saying, "We told you not to come here," and yet you do. You can't resist, because mysteries like this don't invite you. They pull you. And as the last light fades from the sky, you feel the first true shift. The ruins are no longer background scenery. They are the main act, and you, my friend, have officially walked on stage.